Welcome to Podcast Awesome, where we chat about icons, design, tech, business, and nerdery with members of the Font Awesome team. I'm your host, Matt Johnson, and today we're going through another one of our nerd show and tells to introduce you to the famous Isaac Chase. If you notice that we've been putting out more video content around these parts, you would be right. Yes, indeed, we have been, and that is all due to Isaac's expertise in film and video. We're really glad to have him on board the last couple years, and we've been able to get some great projects across the finish line. So per usual on the Nerd Show and Tell, we'll talk a little bit about Isaac's background, his education and career trajectory, and he has a great icon pack recommendation for our designers based on a hit TV show that you may be familiar with. So you want to stick around for that. All right, without any further ado, here is Isaac Chase. Isaac Chase, thanks for coming on the Nerd Show and Tell. It's kind of high time that we would have you on this.
Yeah.
So welcome. We want to get our users and folks that are paying attention to Font Awesome related stuff acquainted to our team. It's funny. Somebody reached out to me and was like, "Hey, how come Isaac hasn't been on the Nerd Show and Tell?" I'm like, "Oh, good question. We should have him. We should have him on."
Yeah, I've been editing, helping edit some of the video stuff, and I guess I forgot that I needed to be on the show.
Yeah, totally. We try and get everybody on. Not everyone wants to appear on it because they don't want to for some reason, but that's okay. So you've been at Font Awesome for what, about a year now?
Full-time, almost a year, coming up in the next month. And then before that, probably part-time around 8 months. So a year and a bit.
Yeah. And so you're kind of recently-ish a college grad. What can you tell me about what you majored in and maybe some of the work that you did prior to coming on Font Awesome?
Yeah, for sure. I studied digital film and television production. That was my full-on major for 3 years. And I also studied marketing and advertising as my minor at Missouri State University. Graduated a year early and then went into the workforce. The summer after I graduated, there happened to be 2 strikes in the film industry. So we had the writer's strike, which is mainly what I specialized in when I studied. That was a lot of the classes that I took was writing focused, and the actor's strike. So there wasn't a whole lot of union work going on, and therefore not a lot of job opportunities after school. Especially, I grew up in the Midwest, and I wanted to move to the coasts or anywhere that had kind of the industry vibe and opportunities that we don't often get here, especially right now. So yeah, I was job searching for most of my senior year of college and into the summer, and was not getting a whole lot of opportunities. I was getting a lot of interviews, but since the strikes, there wasn't a lot of work. So I was mainly focusing on that time producing my own stuff, my own content. I do a lot of videography and photography on the side. So just building up my portfolio, but still not getting steady work just because of what's going on. And so Travis talked to me and he was like, "Hey, I know that corporate stuff is not really what you want to be doing, but it's a steady job and you can just do that on the side while we look for something for you."
Man, the timing of that kind of stuff. You're working hard for several years, you're getting some skills under your belt, and then you graduate and it's like, oopsies, something's happening in the industry. I mean, that must have been really frustrating.
It was a lot to take in, especially because my senior year of high school, so back in 2020, I got the chance to go to the first Font Awesome commercial shoot for Font Awesome 6. And right after we wrapped that, COVID happened. So the industry was down again for a few months. So it seemed like we were on this pattern of right when I personally hit a milestone, which I have no reason or no affiliation with what's going on, something's happening. Which is really unfortunate, but it all happens for a reason. it has worked out in my favor, I think. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was crazy. Been a crazy time.
Yeah. Well, man, you were one of the lucky ones. That's great that you found a good
Yeah.
slot. And if I'm remembering right, I've heard you talk about how you kind of had a little bit of a shift, if I'm remembering right, where you were kind of planning to go into film, and then
Hmm.
maybe you realized that maybe wasn't the sweet spot you were looking for after all.
Yeah, yeah. My entire life I've loved film. Like that's probably what I nerd out about the most. Just like watching movies with my dad and then, creating stuff on the side. That's kind of the path that I always thought I was going to go on.
Right.
And I studied that in school, really loved it. Still do. Uh, but the industry is really interesting right now. Um,
Hmm.
and especially like growing up in the Midwest, I don't know if that's for me at this current moment. Um, so I looked at doing some other stuff, sports videography. I thought I was really going to go into, and that was a lot of the jobs that I was also looking for during the strikes. And there was an opportunity that I was going to get to work for one of the National Women's Soccer League teams.
Oh, nice.
And then it kind of fell through. But I think that
Hmm.
happened for a reason. And I never saw myself working in corporate, so to speak, um, or even like marketing a digital product. But I have had the best experience here. It's been really fun. Not something I thought I was going to do, but
Yeah.
it it has. I've learned so much that I didn't think I was going to like learn about, and
Right.
has opened different pathways in my career and personal life that I didn't know what was going to happen.
As a person who's really into film, what are some of your favorite movies or scripts, and
Mm,
why?
yeah, that's a really good question. My favorite movie of all time is The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Me and my dad watched it in theaters, and we will probably watch it together once or twice a year. It definitely inspired me to do a lot of the stuff that I experienced, like studying abroad.
Hmm.
I lived in another country for a few months, just like taking a chance on the creative industry because that was kind of unheard of where I grew up. So yeah, that one's always my favorite movie of all time. I think a movie that is expertly written is Past Lives, an incredible movie. Another big one that I just recently rewatched was Arrival. Um,
Okay.
I think that one's so cool. Have you seen any of those?
No, man. Now I'm like, okay, these are on my list of must-watch movies now. I like weird, kind of dark stuff.
Okay,
That's kind of psychological. Have you ever seen
yeah,
Paris, Texas?
no, but I have been wanting to watch that.
Oh, I love that movie so much. Harry Dean Stanton. He's one of the guys that I wish I had seen in primary roles over the years.
Yeah.
I think it was an HBO series from a while back called Big Love. He also played one of the main roles next to Emilio Estevez in the 80s, that cult movie, Repo Man. Repo Man. He also has a short role in The Straight Story, which
Mm.
also is a fantastic, slow moving, really
Hmm.
beautiful movie. It's very slow, so you kind of have to be
Hmm.
in the mood for it. It's a great movie, man. Both those movies
Yeah.
are so great.
See, I'm
But
I'm really a fan of slow moving movies.
yeah.
Like Past Lives and Arrival are both, I would
Hmm.
say, more slow paced than a lot of the movies now, especially in a franchise sense. Like one of my favorites is Hunger Games, Mockingjay Part One, where like the plot is really slow, but there's like a ton
Hmm.
of character building and the tension really gets me. And so I think
Yep.
that one like is just so good. But yeah, slow moving movies are where it's at, I think personally.
For sure. Yeah. If the writing's good and the cinematography is good, yeah, I agree. I've been on the team for a couple years now, and there's always been talk of sort of these wish list items. Actually, the podcast was a wish list item, things that we've always wanted to do. There's no shortage of ideas of things that we would like to do, and we're given a
Hmm.
lot of creative freedom in marketing, which is so great.
Yeah.
And but we're a small kind of scrappy team. I'd worked with some other folks trying to pick at little projects, even just simple stuff like screencasts. We couldn't quite get it dialed the way where it needed to be. It was sort of like, yeah, that's like passable, but we didn't feel great about shipping it. And I remember Travis saying, he kind of put a little thing in my brain a couple years back, like, and we should say too, it's kind of funny when we're saying Travis is your dad, full disclosure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But your dad had mentioned, my son is building some skills in video and film and stuff. Like there's probably some little projects we can get him on. I just kind of sort of put that in the back of my brain, like, oh yeah, maybe we can finally get to those projects we've always wanted to. And so I'm just so happy that we get to do this kind of stuff, and like we can present it the way that we've always intended to. And you've been able to come in and sort of fill in the gaps where I don't necessarily have that skill set. I just love that we can do this video related stuff, and you're helping us make it happen.
Yeah. I think one of the first things that you and I talked about was the video version of the podcast. And that was, like a year and a bit ago. And now we're finally getting into a consistent basis of doing that. It's been fun to get into like the different versions of the podcast, screencasts, marketing related things. Yeah. It's been cool.
Yep. Yeah. Folks can expect to see a steady stream of more video content, and hopefully we'll be able to kind of get that train chugging along. But like we've been able to continue to publish stuff, which has been really great. So super happy about that. So yeah, what are some of the projects that you've been working on lately, and anything particularly of interest or something fun that you've been working on?
Yeah. I've been in a few splits in the fall specifically that were really fun to work on with the dev and design teams. One was we were redoing our kit modem and how our users interact and make kits. And that was really fun to be able to revamp a lot of our screencasts on the design aspect of how the UI is built, and then just like recording that and making it more accessible to people for educational purposes. So that was really fun to do. And then one that you, me, and Noah got to work on together was the marketing for the Duotone release, which was super fun.
Yeah, that was fun. That was super fun.
That was a good one. We pushed a lot of blogs, a lot of emails, and then some social content. And that in particular, I got to more dive into animation, which I had not really been educated in before, a whole lot at least. So that was really fun. We put out like a little animated thing. It went in our emails. So that one was really fun to produce. So yeah, those two projects are the first ones that come to mind. But yeah, we've done a ton of fun, different things, especially at the Snuggles. Those have been fun to do in-person videos, because a lot of the time we don't really get to do those because we're marketing a digital product. But to show the people behind what Font Awesome is really fun to capture and give to people.
So what we always get to on the more lighthearted side of things is, do you think that there is an icon pack or a particular icon that is missing from the Font Awesome canon that you wish were there?
Oh, that's a good question. I've recently become a fan of Severance, and I've really dove into that world. I am now caught up. Season 2 is over, and it was fantastic. But I do
no
think...
spoilers, man. I've got
no spoilers.
3 more episodes to go.
It's great. But I think some icons related to the Severance community, because we have a ton of like Star Wars, Star Trek, but I think especially like some tacky corporate icons or like a play on corporate lingo in that sense would be super cool.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. That is such a good show. Oh my gosh. And yeah, I love, like, there's so many layers about for the reasons why that show is so good, but like visually it's amazing the way that they set it up. It's kind of has sort of like a retro vibe to it, and it's like kind of cold and sterile, and just the psychological parts of that show are just kind of like mind melting. It's
Yeah.
really good stuff.
Yeah. No, for sure.
We'll get Jory and Noah on that one. So
I've been asking.
Jory.
I'm waiting.
Yeah. All right. So do you have a favorite Font Awesome icon or icons?
Yeah, I have two that I use a lot whenever we're like drafting stuff up. The first one, which is my favorite icon, is probably the cup dash to go icon, just like the coffee to
Oh.
go.
Mhm.
I love that one in particular just because it takes me back to like the first actual physical memory of Font Awesome that I've had, which was on set of Font Awesome 6, which was shot in the coffee shop. So I always think
Oh,
about that
nice.
one, which is
Yeah.
fun. But whenever I do screencasts, whenever I log into my account on Font Awesome, I always have the teleporting icon from Star
Yeah.
Trek,
Yep.
which is it just like it's designed so well and it's so
Yeah.
pleasing to look at. I'm not a huge fan of Star Trek. I am more of a Star Wars guy, but I
Yeah.
really appreciate the design of that one. It was always super fun. Like especially like
Yeah. Yeah.
teleporting like in terms of like I'm logging into my account. I just think it's
Yeah.
kind of cool.
It's so good. There's a animation. I don't know if it's animation. I think you'd call it an animation. There's like different stages of that icon.
Yes,
And I
yeah.
think Jory and Brian had put together some sort of animation where you can put them together. You could actually put it on your site where it actually shows the movement of that teleporting.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. It's pretty great.
Yeah.
So, just an example, folks, of some of the fun that we get to have just because it's fun,
Yeah.
just because and then we get these little Easter eggs that we get to put on the site, and it's just delightful to come across.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
always super fun. So tell me, I mean, man, that like you do so much fun, interesting, creative stuff, like in work, like you know what is it that you kind of nerd out about outside of work related stuff?
Yeah. It's definitely weird when your passion is your work. Um,
Yeah.
so I'm trying to separate a little bit of that right now, blending into other things, but
It's a good
graphic
problem to have.
design. Oh yeah, 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 for sure. Graphic design is definitely what I've been nerding about recently, which I've talked to Noah extensively about,
Oh,
like
that's great.
tools and learning stuff. Just because I didn't go to school for that, but I kind of wish I did in a sense.
Mm. Hmm.
I just find it so fascinating how we use that in our business, but also how it's used in different senses, mainly in the music industry. I think is super cool,
Okay.
and how we utilize that. So, kind of working on
Yeah.
that right
Tell me more
now.
about that.
Yeah, just like merch design, I think is really, really interesting.
Hmm.
Whenever we have like music posters and stuff that people put out, album covers, I think is really
Hmm.
an interesting part of graphic design that not a lot of people think about. Usually it's like corporate design or illustration, or I mean even
Right.
icons. That's a big part of design. Um,
Hmm.
so I'm kind of getting into that niche. I do have a lot of musical friends, so I'm doing some work for them, just like intro level stuff. But I am really, really diving into that recently.
That's great. I have a real appreciation for design now, coming on board Font Awesome. And it's just, I've always had kind of a creative side. And, like as a youngster, I used to draw a lot and kind of always took a notebook with me, but
Yeah,
I never specifically thought about design so much actually until, you know, I came on board at Font Awesome, and I was like, wow, it is such an interesting, like, discipline. And I mean, I probably just sound like a total idiot talking about it, but like
no,
just the fact that good design should really go unnoticed, that it should make any kind of any kind of action you're trying to take, it should be as seamless as possible. It's sort of
Yeah.
like, if design is done well, things should just work and it should feel
Hmm.
intuitive. And that is just magic to me
Yeah.
now, where I see, because if you go on a website and you get a sense of navigation and where to find the information on the site and all that, that's not, unless you're a designer, it's not necessarily something that you're going to think of like, well, that was a
Hmm.
pleasurable experience, like browsing that
Yeah.
website.
Yeah.
It just automatically happens. You know where to go. It's like if you're in a physical space and there's good signage, you look up and you know where you're supposed to go. And that's just kind of mind blowing to me that people put so much thought and energy into that in order to honestly just serve people.
Hmm. Yeah.
I,
Yeah. I'm definitely the same way. Like, I didn't think of design as an integral part until I started working here. Just because I never grew up learning about that specific stuff. But I remember when I first started, and I still do this, I will, if I have a creative idea for like a graphic or like a thumbnail for one of our screencasts, I'll like draft something up and I'll send it to Noah and I'll be like,
mm,
hey, I like this idea that I'm going with, but like free reign, like do
yeah.
whatever you to it. That's just like what I was thinking. And then he'll make it 100 times better. And then I'll
Oh,
always be,
totally.
you need to teach me how you did that because it's
Yeah.
crazy.
It's total magic. Like I had a buddy of mine is building a new business, and I think that he's trying to basically take care of everything to get it off the ground. And
Hmm.
I think he's probably using Squarespace or something like that to build a site, and it has everything that needs to be there. And there's stuff missing from it, but I don't know how to communicate it. It's like
Hmm.
he's like, "Hey, take a look at the site. Let me know, what you think." And I'm like, there's something more here. And all I can say is find a good designer that you trust, and they're going to
Yeah.
help you whip this into the shape. But I don't really know quite how to articulate it. Like
Yeah.
it might be the font, it might be color, but I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, like somebody like Noah, you say, here's an idea, and then it comes back to you and they kind of sprinkle their dust on it. It's like, holy cow, that's amazing. Like how,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
really is pretty incredible.
Yeah, and him and I will like talk shop about like different ways that like we should lay out certain things, and like his reasoning behind it is incredible. Like
Yeah.
I never think about that stuff. I'm like, oh wait, that does make a lot more sense.
Yeah.
And I used to, when I had a portfolio in college, I designed it in Squarespace, so like it was very cookie cutter, whatever. But
Right.
now I'm like, oh, and now that I'm exposed to the fact you, so to speak, I can use, Font Awesome, Web Awesome, and 11D and build my own and design it how I want with free reign,
Yeah.
which is really, really cool. So currently learning the design aspect so I can be able to do that. But
That's great. Yeah. I love to talking to folks where Leah said something similar where I asked her, what do you like doing outside of work? What are you kind of nerding out about? And she was like, I want to say something other than like the work that I'm doing at work, but
yeah,
I love
yeah,
it so much. It's just sort of my whole world. And it's like, that's awesome, man. That's such a
yeah,
great spot to be in, to where we enjoy what we're doing so much. It's all just interrelated. So
yeah. No, for
that's
sure.
great. Okay. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You've been cordially introduced to Isaac Chase. I think Isaac's right. A Severance icon pack could be pretty sweet. There's some oddball ones in there that I think Jory and Noah could have some real fun with. So anyway, thanks for joining us for another edition of Podcast Awesome. And as usual, Podcast Awesome was produced and edited by me. But of course, these video episodes, we get a little extra help from Isaac. Podcast Awesome theme song was composed by Ronnie Martin. The music interstitials were composed by Zach Malm, and audio mastering was done by Chris Enns at Lemon Productions.